Folks, welcome back to another episode of Coffee, Tea, and Crime. Today, Homicide in Cozad. Unsolved murder of Leah Rowlands. Cozad, Nebraska, at the time of this homicide, had about 4,000 people. An obvious small town, so they're not used to seeing big city crime. Leah Rowlands, 41-year-old woman, had 2 teenage children. She was going to be murdered while she was at work at what was a Amoco gas station just off Interstate 80. Now, they had pretty good surveillance video. The suspect wasn't wearing a mask, ball cap, nothing to disguise his appearance. And now that 1997 homicide, robbery, still unsolved. Now, Ms. Rowlands' reputation was that of a hard worker and a devoted mother. Now, she'd only been living in Cozad for about a year or so. She wanted to be closer to her boyfriend. Now, the day she was murdered, that was her first day as the store manager. She'd just recently been promoted. It's March 10th, 1997. It's about 10:30 in the morning. Mel Whitey pulls up at the gas pumps in about a 93 to 95 red 2-door Pontiac Grand Am, and he fills it up with gas. Now, this suspect's late 20s, mid-30s, 6 foot to 6'3". So he comes in the store. Now, he's barefooted. He wore dark sweatpants, a darker black hooded sweatshirt. He had on a bomber-style leather jacket. Now, the unusual thing is he was barefooted. Now, nobody in Nebraska goes around barefoot, at least not out in public, I wouldn't think. And even though this is March, it's probably still pretty chilly. In fact, it's chilly enough the suspect's got on that big old jacket over a hooded sweatshirt. Now, the video surveillance picks him up walking around the aisles, and it seems like he's waiting for a mother and a daughter that are in the store as customers. It seems like he's waiting for them to leave. Now, after they bought what they were going to buy and they left the store, suspect, he gets a can of Coca-Cola, soft drink, can of pop, any event. He opens it, takes a drink, looks right at the camera. He's not hiding anything. So he's either very stupid or he's an institutionalized criminal that wants to go back, or he just doesn't think anybody's going to get him. So he goes to the counter, and when he gets up there, he tells Lee to hand over the money. This is a robbery. So she gives him about $150 out of the register. Now, after getting the cash, he tells her to lay down behind the counter. He then pulls out a 9mm semi-automatic pistol out of his right pocket, leans over the counter, and he fires 3 shots into the victim. 2 of the rounds struck her in the arm, 1 struck her in the head. She died instantly. Now, this case has been featured on America's Most Wanted, but it still remains unsolved. Now, the FBI profilers said it was a random crime of opportunity. According to them, it appeared that the suspect was very experienced and potentially not his first nor his last robbery. But now, at least give you somewhere to look. If you got somebody executing store clerks after a robbery, that's not a hard MO to follow. You would think there'd be dead clerks all up and down the interstate. That'd be the first thing you'd look at. See if you got any MO crimes in other jurisdictions. Now, the reason the FBI is involved in this case is because he robbed a business. Now, that business has merchandise that comes from out of state, which means that robbery interrupted interstate commerce. That's why the FBI is involved in it. Now, Lee's brother has a theory. He says he thinks it had all the earmarks of the ex-husband of Lee. Evidently, Lee and her ex-husband, they owned a restaurant in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And they had a falling out and a divorce, and evidently it didn't go too well for him. Now, what he's saying happened is that if you look at the suspect's garb he was wearing, he had those pants, those sweatpants, and they were pulled up to his knees. Now, the brother, he calls those clam digger style, and that's when you got your pants rolled up to your knees. And he said that's what people do down in the southern parts of the country. He says, but you don't wear your clothing like that in Nebraska because it's not very warm there. So now what he thinks is the ex-husband, he hired this guy and he came up specifically to execute Lee. Now that's his theory. Now of course local jurisdiction wouldn't be allowed to fly down to the Virgin Islands and do any investigation. The department's probably too small and they're not going to spend the money so 2 investigators can go on a vacation. That's how they would look at it. So I'm sure the FBI picked up the phone. They might even sent their agent in the area if they actually have one on the island. I guess they would. But just talk to the local police, show that picture. Evidently either police don't know him or they didn't look too hard or they know him and they ain't saying. But whatever it is, the killer's still out there, smug in the thought that he knew he would never get identified.